The words hit me like a storm I never saw coming. If you don't like living with us, leave. My daughter-in-law stood there, arms folded, her voice sharp, dripping with disdain. I froze, not because the words were cruel, but because of the bitter irony. This was my house. The very walls they slept under were built from my late husband's sweat and my sacrifices. They weren't living with me. I was letting them live here, free. When my son and his wife moved in 2 years ago, I thought I was doing the right thing. They had just married, money was tight, and I didn't want them drowning in debt or struggling. My husband had passed away a few years back, and the silence of the house had grown unbearable. The idea of having family around again filled me with comfort. It was supposed to be a blessing, for all of us. At first, things went smoothly. My daughter-in-law, Emma, smiled often, thanked me for meals, and even helped in the kitchen. My son, Daniel, worked long hours, and I was just happy to see him at the dinner table again. We laughed, shared stories, and for a short while, it felt like the family bond one had longed for was finally taking shape. But slowly, things changed. Gratitude was replaced with entitlement. The thank yous vanished, replaced by sighs of annoyance when I asked for help. The kitchen became her domain, and I was treated like a guest in my own home. The living room was constantly occupied by their friends, loud music, and clutter. The place I once kept neat and warm became filled with tension and chaos. The hardest part was my son's silence. He rarely defended me, rarely reminded Emma that this house wasn't hers to claim. Instead, he seemed caught between us, pretending not to hear when her sharp remarks cut into me. One afternoon, after yet another argument about something small, the way I folded laundry, of all things, Emma exploded. She stood in the doorway, glaring, and spat out those words, "If you don't like living with us, leave." I felt my knees weaken. I wanted to shout back, to remind her whose name was on the deed, who had raised the man she called her husband. But instead, I swallowed the pain. My silence felt safer than a war under my own roof. That night, I cried quietly in my room, clutching the blanket that once belonged to my late husband. For the first time, I didn't feel like the mistress of my home, I felt like an unwanted guest. Days passed, but her words echoed in my mind. My spirit dimmed, and even simple joys, gardening, baking, reading, felt hollow. The home I once cherished had become a cage. Still, I couldn't bring myself to push them out. They were family. They had nowhere else to go, or so I believed. But everything changed one weekend. I overheard Emma on the phone, laughing as she told a friend about how lucky they were not to pay rent, how they were saving up for their dream house. She spoke as if I were some foolish old woman, easy to take advantage of. That moment pierced deeper than any insult she'd ever thrown at me. I realized then that this wasn't about family struggling. This was about disrespect. About my kindness being twisted into a weakness. And if I stayed silent, it would never end. That night, I sat Daniel down at the kitchen table. My hands trembled, but my voice was steady. I told him what I had overheard. I told him how his wife's words had cut me, how his silence had broken my heart. For a long time, he said nothing. But then, his eyes softened, guilt heavy in them. He admitted he knew Emma had been harsh, but he didn't want to cause conflict. He thought staying quiet was protecting peace. "Son," I said, "peace built on disrespect isn't peace. It's surrender." The next morning, I gathered my courage and confronted them both. My heart pounded as I told them clearly, "This is my home. If anyone doesn't like living here, it won't be me who leaves. It will be you." Emma's face flushed red, ready to argue, but Daniel raised his hand. "She's right," he said quietly. For the first time, he stood with me, not against me. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument, but I didn't back down. Within 2 weeks, they packed their things and moved out. It wasn't easy. My son avoided me for a while, hurt that I had forced the issue, but I knew it had to be done. Sometimes love means setting boundaries, even if it risks distance. The house was quiet again, but this time the silence wasn't loneliness. It was freedom. I tended to my garden, invited friends over for tea, and even joined a local community group. Slowly, I rebuilt not just my home, but my spirit. Months later, Daniel returned, this time alone. He hugged me tightly, tears in his eyes. He confessed that he hadn't realized how badly things had gotten until they moved out. He apologized for not defending me, for letting things spiral. That moment healed wounds I thought might never close. As for Emma, I don't know if she ever changed her ways. Our relationship never truly recovered, but I no longer carried the weight of her words. I had reclaimed my dignity. The lesson I learned is one I want to leave with you: kindness should never mean allowing yourself to be disrespected. Boundaries are not walls, they are bridges to healthier, stronger relationships. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is stand up for yourself, even if it means letting go. Because home isn't just a roof and four walls. Home is where respect, love, and dignity live. And no one, no matter who they are, has the right to take that away from you.